Hi everyone, this is Kelly from Truth in Story, and I'm so excited to be bringing you this to kind of kickstart Embrace the Magical month of October, because this is embracing all things divination. Now, by the time you watch this, I will have had this for a little while, so I should be able to give you an update on it. My friend Chris, who lives in Greece, I'll put a link to his channel below. He loves all things divination, as do I. And so when I had, of course, gone through all the process and stuff and getting my Lenormand deck in hand, I had to send him a copy of it because anybody on YouTube, I feel like he embraces all things divination. He loves geomancy, he loves Lenormand and Kipper and tarot and oracle and just everything divination. I think we are very similar in those ways. And so, of course, I had to send him one, and he said, "Oh, I want to send you something as well." And so he picked a surprise one, so I didn't know what it was until I got it, and he got one for himself and one for me. And this, of course, it's like completely describes probably us in a nutshell, so it was very good picking. So this is called Divination of the Ancients Oracle Cards, and it is by Barbara Michael John Free, and I'm assuming, no, I think the artwork's by somebody else. Also by Flavia Kate Peters. The two of them also did a book together, which is, there's a card of that in this deck. Slightly cheesy. And I will say, this deck is, is like many Oracle decks for me, slightly to the cheese, but absolute perfection for embracing the magical. And I actually ended up really liking this more than I thought I would. And so this is a Blue Angel deck. So of course we have a nice sturdy guidebook or box. We have 45 cards and a guidebook, and the artwork is by Richard Crooks. Thank you for putting it on the cover. It's not on the front, but at least it's on the back and not having to go find it in a little thing on the book. You know my pet peeves here. So the point of this deck is to look at divinatory practices across time, and use those as cards. It has the name of the divination as well as a keyword. I have found, to my surprise, that this does actually, I think, going to function quite well as an oracle card deck, as well as sort of a teaching of the different divinatory things, and not teaching how to do them, but giving you that historical information. So this has surprised me more than I thought, and you'll see what really surprised me, because I've seen a few of the cards, but I hadn't seen many of the cards when I got this in the mail. I have looked through this already, but I haven't shuffled it yet. So let's zoom in a little closer here and see. So we have the box, typical Blue Angel, a beautiful light purple in the middle, beautiful gradient going on the side. It's just what you expect to see with Blue Angel in terms of a box. It's a Blue Angel box that, they do kind of, you come with expectations with Blue Angel. It's going to be a good box. And yeah, it is. Then, of course, we have the guidebook and the cards. Now, the backs of the cards, I have to say, aren't entirely my favorite. I do find them to be a little bit much for me, but I tend to like more muted backs, but that's just personal preference. I do think it goes with the theme, and I do think, especially for this first day of Embrace the Magical, it asks us to just embrace the magic of all these divination systems. So for that, it's that cheese of musicals, right? So there's cheesiness that's just annoying, and then there's musical cheesiness, which is what makes the world go round. And I think this moves more towards the musical end of things. And again, many people will absolutely love this. I just personally am a fan of more muted backings. But there we have it. Lots of beautiful colors. I will say the colors are stunning. But let's take a look at the book before we move to the cards, because this is how we do it. This is how we do it. So here we have the Divination of the Ancients. Many can give good advice or direct you to follow the right path, but the actual steps to experience the lessons of life and its rich rewards can only be taken by you, guided by what you know. Increase your knowledge, expand your wisdom, and therein lies the key to an amazing journey of self-discovery. Fire Bear, or otherwise known as a Saxon Elder. Love that. We have an introduction which just talks about the ancient lands, and the fact that Divinations of the Ancient is designed to introduce you to the magical tools, signs, and omens that were once used by the ancients, but still are available to us each day if we just open our eyes. By rebirthing the lost art of divination, we awaken to our soul's connection with the world of spirit. Herein lies the key to the symbolic answers that guide us to our heart's true desire and greater purpose. So we have that. We have sort of guided visualizations here. I've never really understood these in books. I have to admit, they're one of those things that are often in oracle books that are kind of silly, because you can't have a guided written visualization. If I'm sitting here and reading this, I'm not going to be going into the image. So basically I would need to read this to myself and then close my eyes and listen to it, I suppose. That's what I mean by sometimes oracle decks just being a little too cheesy. Now there's other people again who probably absolutely love those, but I don't know how you can have a guided visualization whilst your eyes are open. Then it just talks about divination through the ages a bit here, and how to use the cards, how to read them. Single card, 3 card, which is truthfully my preferred method with oracle cards. And then a Cornish cross. Let's see what these positions are. The focus, support, action and receptivity, and outcome. I kind of like that, so we might try that at the end, because I do like to try a spread at the end of the reading. Gives you an example of, if you pulled certain cards, what those would mean. And then it comes to our to each of the cards. So you don't get a ton for each. I will say I would have liked more history about the particular divination. But let's just see with this first one. You do get a black and white representation, as we can see here. And here is the actual card. It has the name, which is arrow, and it has the keyword, which is focus. It says, like the many arrows on this card, your mind is flitting in many directions and your thoughts are scattered. However, you are being urged to bring some order into your life and make plans. The only way for you to achieve your dreams is by decluttering all those thoughts well enough to determine what they even are. It's time to become like the one arrow in the center of the card that shoots straight and to the point. You can achieve this by taking time out to decide what your goal is, planning how you can reach it, working out a schedule to stick by, and then focusing. You will find that you become stronger and more grounded as you go straight to what you really want in life. Focus on positivity and you will make your mark. This is the way to good fortune and blessings for the world around you and ultimately for yourself. And then it gives an incantation. My mind is like an arrow in flight, its focus sharp so that I might hit the mark and reach my goal to free my dreams and feed my soul. Feels slightly cheesy, but people might love it. I have issues with oracle guidebooks. I acknowledge that. Other divinatory meanings are: start to prioritize, make a list of what's important in your life, walk away from anything that takes you from your main focus, be straight and to the point, detox your mind through positive thinking, and practice meditation. That's helpful. And then it says the arrow revealed. Since the time of the Chaldeans, arrows have been used for divination purposes. The king of Babylon would stop at the fork in a road and seek an omen by firing arrows engraved with written messages. The one that traveled the furthest would have the answer. The Native Americans believed that you should speak like an arrow, direct and focused. So I like that. See, I would have liked a little bit more of that kind of thing, but that's awesome that somebody would put messages on the arrow and see which one shoots the furthest for a message. Is awesome. it is embrace the magical. Plus, I really like this card. I use an arrow in my charm casting set, and I find it to be extremely powerful in readings. It really does point to what needs to be focused in on. When it shows up, it just always has something to say. So I really liked that there was a card, and I loved seeing that, okay, where is this coming from historically? So, you know, I found these to be helpful. But truthfully, I mean, I think that once you know what the system was, where it was coming from, image-wise, I like this because you can go with the scattered for in shadow, but in light, you can also look at that, focus in on that focused arrow. So I feel like there's both light and shadow in this, and I think that's really cool. So really like that. So that's what you have, and you have that for each of the cards, where you have 2 pages, a little bit of a, you know, that might get annoying. Here's an incantation for the astrology. Star of wonder, star of might, my soul doth shine both day and night. I look up through the galaxy and step into my destiny. I mean, if you're looking for an incantation, I guess it's there. So I don't know. Sometimes these things give me the giggles in a good way, and sometimes they're like, I don't know. They might be pushing it. But I do like this probably more than anything. These 3 are kind of cool. That's probably going to make me smile. That gives you some ideas on how to actually have this apply to your reading, and then where is it coming from historically. And so that's what we have. Not a lot, you know, there's 115 pages, no, that's about the author. So 113 pages, but I will say, you know, it's fairly heavy on white space, so not a lot of text per card. So let's zoom in on the cards and take a look. Some of them are kind of bowing away from the other ones. Colors are nice and vivid and bright. Typical, you know, it's Blue Angel. Any Blue Angel deck, you know, you have, it's that typical cardstock, typical gloss. It's a Blue Angel deck. You get what you expect, which is good. I do like Blue Angel decks. Some of the images are definitely sort of collaged in through a digital format. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it's not so much. Like, I think this one really works, and I quite like it. Some of them not as much, but let's just see how we go. I am going to give a brief, like, where it came from, because I think that's really interesting. And because, of course, we're going into Embrace the Magical, we're embracing all things divinatory. I think it's a great little kind of walk through history. When I opened this with this deck up, I was voice messaging to Chris, and I was like, this is so perfect for Embrace the Magical. Like, it's just like a walk through all these amazing things and what people have used and done over the centuries with divination. So as we saw, with the arrow, or as I already said, the Chaldeans would use them for arrows for divination. I love the King of Babylon shooting at the fork of the road, which are very powerful places, and shooting arrows and seeing which one travels the furthest. So that's awesome. But again, just in terms of a keyword as reading, I do love the idea of a focus card. So here we have astrology or destiny. I really like this. You know, we've got sort of old looking of the different signs here. We obviously have, I'm assuming, Capricorn, and we have Leo. So we have these kind of, I like the look of this. I think it looks really sharp. We have astrology and we have destiny. And of course, dating back, I'm just going to read this quickly, but dating back thousands of years across a wide spread of cultures appearing in India, Tibet, China, Babylonia, North Africa, and South America, to name a few, a study of the stars has influenced various events and aspects of personal and world history since records begin. This is one of the very few forms of divination that has truly survived the test of time. Think also geomancy, but geomancy lost itself, and I'm trying to pull it back. Anyways, there we have that. This one's got a person in it, so I do, and it's definitely kind of photorealism, but I think he's kind of cool looking. Like, look at him. He looks very, like, shamanic-y. Like, I love the painting here on his face. This is an augur. It says which is mastery. From the ancient times of Etruscan culture, augurs observed and interpreted omens and signs from the gods and nature. These prophets were consulted by kings, emperors, and pharaohs before an engagement of any nature was entered into. Today, these wise men can still be found in every traditional culture throughout the world. So this is somebody who actually he has mastered that ability to be able to consult and see and interpret the omens. Kind of like a cartomancer. Here we have aura for observation. I quite like this. We have somebody that's just walking, nondescript person, and we've got this massive aura around him. I always think of an aura more, if you look up, if you can see close to the body, there is an aura here, but then we've got this massive aura going around, so that's pretty awesome. So apparently, let's see, incantation. What was the incantation for the augur? See, now I'm going to be interested. Oh, we already did that one. I finally let my ego go. It does not serve, and now I know that my pride comes before a fall. This I must master most of all. See, to me, that incantation has nothing to do with an augur. Maybe more to do with mastery, but... Anyways, a spiritual concept stemming predominantly from Hindu, Jainist, Buddhist, and Zoroastrian teaching. The aura is one's shining glory. Many pictures of Mary and Jesus depict a body of light surrounding them as a spiritual halo. Each of the 7 colors of the aura surrounding the body has its own meaning and lends itself to interpretation of the human energy field. So I love this, though, it's about observation because we've got to pay attention to see it. So I think that's pretty cool. Here we have the Black Cat, and one of the reasons that this deck was on my wish list to check out was because it has the Black Cat as good luck instead of bad luck. Yes, one must have some tea. It is fall. This is what I'm not, image-wise, not my favorite. It does look kind of photoshopped on with the cat and the flower just kind of stuck there. And this is definitely a Photoshop style deck with just pieces, random pieces being taken from here and there and kind of pulled together. A lot of times it really works. And this one not quite as much, but I still like the card. The Bast was the ancient Egyptian goddess of protection and of cats. The Egyptian people always ensured that they had black cats in their homes. Isn't that interesting? But it says in Japan and Far East, black cats were considered good luck. So we have the Egyptians for protection. Japan and the Far East were good luck. But in the Middle Ages, they were deemed wicked and evil as witches' familiars. Oh, those Christian people, right? Today on August 17th, I did not know this, we celebrate Black Cat Appreciation Day. That's awesome. I did not know this. My son would have loved that. Well, we had a black cat named Lucky. That was Michael's baby. Here we have a book for knowledge. This one I found slightly cheesy because they actually used a book that was by the people who created this deck, which is Barbara Michael John Free and Flavia Kate Peters. I found that to be a little bit cheesy. I would have liked it just to have been a really cool leather book, not more of a modern kind of publication. But it does talk about writings first appeared in history as early as the 7th millennium BC, marked onto stone, wood, silk, bamboo, wax, clay, and papyrus. Characters and hieroglyphs were used as record keepers of ancient history, myth, and folklore. And of course, you have such things as the Book of Changes. So I would have liked this to have been maybe bibliomancy and that been for knowledge. or something along that nature. But, you know, I do like having a book, and I do like having knowledge. I just would have liked an old leather book. Personal preference, personal preference. I love this. This is candle for illumination. Egyptians used candles as early as 3000 BC. Many earlier civilizations also developed candles, some using waxes made from plants and insects, from rice paper to papyrus. They lighted their temples and homes and assisted travelers at night. Today, candles symbolize ceremony, romance, birthdays, and are used for home decor. Of course, you can also scry in a candle fire. So I don't feel like that their text in the book really even talks about candles in terms of divination. They just talk about people using candles for thousands of years. But, you know, people do actually scry in candle fire. So I think that could have been worth a mention there. I like that it's there, though. I love that there's clouds. I mean, what is the most natural form of scrying that everybody does, even though they don't even realize what they're doing, right? Laying and looking and seeing shapes in the clouds. So here we have the clouds. Aeromancy, A-E-R-O-M-A-N-C-E, or cloud gazing, was practiced by ancient Babylonian priests. Oh, those Babylonians, right? Banned during the Renaissance period in Europe and classed as one of the 7 forbidden arts, as interpreting cloud shapes and signs were considered too powerful a gift from the gods to humans. Oh my goodness. Today, the only insight most people derive from the clouds is information stored in the iCloud. They try to pull a little bit of Apple into there. That is so interesting. I did not know that it was banned. Interpreting cloud shapes was banned. That's pretty awesome. Embrace the magical. Here we have coins, the keyword being abundance. Did I even say what this keyword was? Mystical. Ancient India was the earliest issue of coins, which dated back to the 6th century. In China, fortune tellers used coins to foretell the future. Roman soldiers preparing for battle used coins to divine who would live and who would die. If you ever flipped a coin looking to heads or tails, you have practiced coin divination. Also, of course, people use coins in I Ching, but that I Ching has its own card. But I quite love that. So there we have coins. Crystal ball. I should pull mine over here, but you will see plenty of that this month. Crystal balls have been used for divination since Dr. John Dee in the 1527 to 1608, royal counselor for Elizabeth I, used his crystal ball to aid her in communicating with the spirits. Gypsies tell the future by gazing into crystal balls. I wonder if that's like actually historical, or has that just become something that we have added to the myth of the gypsy? I also think that it's pretty common in today's day to realize that the term gypsy is considered derogatory and probably should be Romany or something of that nature. And I'm not sure, did they really use crystal balls? I know someone who actually has Romany heritage. I'll have to ask. Today, crystal balls are also used as a focus to clear the mind in preparation for communication from spirit. I don't have a lot of luck with crystal ball. It's too clear for me. I do much better with inclusions, such as in this piece of, this is one of my best scrying ones, is this, as well as my skull, where it has inclusion. But when it's completely clear, I don't do so well. But I love that for clarity. Here we have crystals, of course, for healing it has. The Druids were among the earliest people known to have divined with crystals, which they used in form of scrying plates. Pouches of crystal stones were buried with their deceased owners in prehistoric tombs. In the 6th century BC, the Ratnapariska of Buddhahabhata wrote about the healing virtues of crystal stones. This great knowledge is still used today. Love it. Again, slightly in terms of just composition of the image, I would have just liked to see crystals there, but I mean, they are divining with it, so having the pouch is important. This is a little much. Here we have dice. I mean, I would have just liked to seen some real, like, cool old dice versus these sort of red photoshopped dice. Like, they just looks like, you know, graphic dice versus ancient casting of light. So, but they're using this more as gambling, I will say. It's called a gamble. One of the oldest forms of divination. See, it's one of the oldest forms. The dice we're familiar with today originated in ancient Persia over 5,000 years ago. I want to see old dice, when knuckle bones were marked and thrown at many religious locations. I used to have a set of bone things from Mongolia that my sister-in-law, who is Mongolian, had sent. Primitive dice called Hakata were used by the Shona people of Africa. Today, the Dalai Lama uses six-sided Mo dice in making important decisions for his people. So again, a lot of important dice. They, you know, also have dice that Ramal dice for geomancy. So old ones. So I would have loved to have seen some of those old dice. Not this, but it's still, you know, when you look at it, it's dice. Again, this is me nitpicking because it's my job to look at the deck. But all in all, I love the idea of this deck. Now, I thought it was interesting to have a dictionary. I get the fact that we use dictionary for communication. The oldest known dictionaries dated back 4,300 years ago and are cuneiform tablets from the Akkadian Empire. Since dictionaries have played an important role in deciphering and interpreting ancient languages, and in particular the meaning of texts used in ceremonial work, yeah, so that's again, like with the book one, I don't think people use dictionaries for divination. So I would have preferred just a book one or a bibliomancy one. It was an old book. I'm not sure about dictionaries as a form of divination. So that might be one I would actually take out of the deck, just in terms with how I would use it. Although just in terms of as an oracle, I can see having communication is a good keyword to have in an oracle deck. So that could be them trying to kind of balance some of that out in terms of making it a usable oracle deck. But for me, a dictionary is not that I've heard of. Now, maybe somebody's going to leave a comment and say, oh no, they use dictionaries for divination in XYZ. So prove me wrong. Here we have dowsing rods for the Seeker. I do like that there's a Seeker card. Over 8,000 years ago, I love how they put this, over 8,000. I'm pretty sure they don't mean that, but maybe so. Over 8,000 years ago. On the walls of North Africa's Tassili caves, ancient tribesmen painted murals of a dowser holding a forked branch as he searched for water. In Egyptian art, pharaohs are also seen holding devices that resemble dowsing tools. In a biblical story, Moses used the rod given him by God to locate and bring forth water. So there we have a dowsing rod, and you're seeking, right? You're using those rods and you're seeking things out. So it could have really been seeking, but I do think having a seeker is nice in a deck, and you can certainly just use that as what are you looking for. Here we have dreams for keyword incubation. Of course, dream interpretation dates back to over 5,000 years to Mesopotamians. Both gods and kings paid very close attention to the meanings of their dreams and recorded them on clay tablets. Of course, people probably were paying attention to dreams even before then, but that's what we have written record of. The Babylonians, Assyrians, and Egyptians created dream temples and placed high value on vivid and significant dreams they believed would help them to heal. That's pretty cool. Here we have feathers. Greeks, it says, traditionally considered feathers, their colors, shapes, and how they fell as clues about the future. For instance, a white feather falling in front of you meant the gods were on your side. Today, a white feather symbolizes an angel or a loved one in spirit world trying to connect with you. I have heard that before. It's important that you don't step over a feather, for it may indicate you are willfully choosing to ignore the sound and loving guidance awaiting for you. It may be then some time before such help will come your way so easily again. So a little superstition mixed in there as well. So a message here with feathers. Here we have fire, which is, I guess, what they're going to talk about pyromancy. I guess I would have thought that would have been in the candle one, as I talked about. So then it makes the candle, why do we have a candle? It's not about divination. Because here we have fire. In ancient temple of Athena, temple virgins practiced one of the oldest forms of divination, pyromancy, the observance of flames from a sacrificial fire, candle, or other source of flame, and the interpretation of the shapes that can be seen dancing in the flames. So, and they have a keyword here is spontaneity. So the candle card then is really strictly just illumination. Sorry, I'm starting to make piles because that's how I do. And the dictionary. So those two to me aren't strictly divination things. So we're just going to see if any other come up like that. So there we have fire, which is awesome. This is my least favorite. I thought it was the black cat, but yeah, this is my least favorite. Just the composition of, you know, it's obviously we've stuck a vase of flowers in here, and we stuck, you know, roses here. It just, you know, I could do that. It would not take, I could make that image, and I probably could make a better looking image. So that's definitely to me a little bit slipshotty in terms of putting together a good image. But flowers are used for these types of things. I do know that. In ancient temples, flowers adorn the altars and walkways in dedication. In ancient Babylonian, flowers are floated on the surface of the water and then used as a form of scrying. For centuries, those seeking love have pulled daisy petals saying, he loves me not, until the last petal reveals the answer to the question. See, so many people scry and do divination that don't even realize it. I love that. Don't love the image of this card so much. But most of them I do like. Footprints for direction. Members of all the ancient tribes knew animal footprints would lead them to water and food sources. In ancient Rome, people were tried by test of walking a fine line drawn in the earth. If they missed the line, they were classed as guilty and sentenced to death. I don't really see that. Well, I guess it's divining whether somebody is guilty or not guilty. So I guess I would say that would count. Interesting. Did not know this. Again, not too fond of this. I do like the idea of a fortune cookie. I don't like all the question marks. I just think it's slightly cheesy in composition. But that's me being picky. In the 13th and 14th century, still popular mooncakes, forerunners of today's fortune cookies, included messages by Ming revolutionaries meant to prompt the revolution to defeat the Mongols. Today, after eating in a Chinese restaurant, we look forward to reading the messages in the cookies and learning what our fortunes will be. I do like to, and I do love to open it up. I like the fortuitousness. I just don't particularly like the image. I think there's some really nicely done images here, and I think that, you know, there's just a few that stand out as not being the greatest ever. But that's okay. And here we have, and of course, here we have the one that excited me so much because I didn't know it was in here until I was flipping through the cards and I was like, Chris, there's a geomancy card. He's like, I know it. Meaning foresight by earth from ancient Greece. Geomancy is a translation of the Arabic term for the science of sand. The art is thought to have traveled from the Middle East with Arab merchants who brought esoteric knowledge from East Asia via the Silk Road. It was widely used in Africa and Europe until the 17th century. It is still being used today by a few of us trying to resurrect the art of geomancy. I think patience is a weird keyword to use for it. And the divinatory meanings is don't give up. There's no rush to end anything. The universe is working in the background to bring about. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how they're picking some of the keywords. But I just love this geomancy card. Bam, bam, and bam. Here we have handwriting. The ancient Chinese and Sumerians were the first people to understand that an individual's handwriting revealed aspects of their personality. In 500 BC, Confucius warned, "Beware of a man whose writing sways like a reed in the wind." Today, many people use graphology to gain insights into character traits, and automatic writing is used as a tool for self-discovery of the subconscious mind. Very cool. Hydromancy, and it has illusion here. Nostradamus, 1503 to 1566, was the first to record details of scrying in a bowl of water. However, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure people scryed in water before that. However, water scrying can be traced back to ancient Babylonians again, who passed the practice on to the Egyptians and the Greeks. A scrying temple near the Dodona Oracle housed a large bronze cauldron of water into which people gazed for clear visions. Yeah, I feel, hydromancy's been going on for a very, very long time. Of course, we have the I Ching. And again, I find it slightly annoying because I think this is probably a real book. Richard John Lynn. Why? Why not have just a really cool old I Ching book on here? Not sort of like marketing. If I find out that was like made by Blue Angel, that's going to be really annoying. It probably is. So it's probably the other one. Oh well. I'm glad that there's an I Ching. I like that there's coins on it, but I feel like you could have a beautiful image of an old book of changes versus having some new published book that basically is marketing for this particular book. Blue Angel, you can do better than that. Here we have casting lots. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have. I was complaining. Obviously, this is an ancient tradition dating back to the 8th century BC. This is the oldest book of wisdom. So why would you choose this? Ugh. No, 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 no. Okay, moving on before I get really irritated. Lots are marked stones, metal pieces, or sticks. There are many references about lots in the Bible, which is true, After Judas died, the disciples cast lots to see who would be his replacement. King David consulted lots before going into battle, and the yes stone appeared to forecast his victory. They were also used in ancient Rome for fortune telling. Yeah, there's all kinds of lots in the Bible, as much as they talk about not using fortune telling. It's quite funny. Here we have numerology. I love that there's a numerology in here. Of course, our number system has its roots in Mesopotamia and 3400 BC. When you notice numbers appearing in sequence, such as 111 and 444, repeating when you check the time, dial a phone number, enter a hotel, or notice car number plates, be alert. They are universal messages being sent to you through sacred numerology. Precision. I love that there's an OM card, there's a Geomancy card, there's an OM card, there's a Rune card, there's an I Ching card. Yes, I love this, and I quite like this image. Seemingly timeless, the OM's origins continue to baffle scholars. Theories range from the belief that it was invented in Cisalpine Gaul around 600 BC by Gaulish Druids, to the idea that the earliest Irish Christians developed the practice, to the concept that Irish Druids used the OM as secret code against the Romans. So we don't know exactly. In current lore, we definitely attribute it to something with the Druids. Here we have the idea of the oracle, such as the Oracle of Delphi. The ancient oracles were devoted to the mother goddess. The Oracle of Père Jet was sacred to the Egyptians and possibly the source of the oracular tradition that spread to Greece from Egypt. Today, gurus and oracles await us in faraway places, in caves and high mountains and temples, waiting to share their wisdom if we choose to listen. Kind of similar to an augur, although an augur is more, from what I understand, an augur is more noticing and interpreting omens, whereas an oracle, as in a person oracle, is, kind of, you go and ask them questions and they speak the oracle. Very awesome. Wisdom is the key word. Ornithomancy, the idea of the omen. Ancient Romans, or they have as omen, I'm sorry. This is talking about patterns of birds. I really wish there wasn't a window here. I would just love to see the birds, but ancient Romans released doves and pigeons that inferred omens and signs from the patterns of flight. Taking the auspices in this way, the augur interpreted the message from the gods, learning whether or not they cast in their favor. Augury was first practiced by the Etruscans. Divination from the flight, cries, colors, behaviors, and types of birds is a practice that dates back to ancient Greece, although other tribal cultures practice this art as well. For example, the many tribes of the Americas, Australian Aboriginals, and Polynesians place much emphasis on the action of the great seabirds and birds of prey as key indicators of the state of the natural world around them, as well as the spiritual realm of the ancestors. Ouija board. And I love that the keyword is caution. I love that the other divinatory meaning is, we were just talking about this in live chat. This is going to be a while before you actually see this, but we just were today. Don't dabble in what you do not understand. I love that. The Ouija board's very name creates both fear and fascination for those who do not know how this form of divination works. Dating back to China. Now this I did not know, because we were talking about it in chat. Like, where did it come from? Because it, showed up in most of our, urban legend knowledge from Procter and, I don't know, a game company. Dating back to China from around 1100 AD, this method was known as planchette writing. Ancient Indians, Greeks, Romans, and medieval Europeans also employed this method of spirit writing. Today, it is still used to receive information in seances. I did not know that. Learned something new, and we were just wondering where it came from. Bam. Score 1 for Divination of the Ancients. Here we have Psalmistry. Thought to have originated in Hindu astrology, the ancient art of hand reading was common practice throughout the lands of India, Tibet, China, Persia, Sumeria, Babylon, and ancient Israel. Aristotle stated that lines are not written into the human hand without reason. They emanate from heavenly influences and man's own individuality. How awesome is that? That's definitely on my list. I have read some books on it in the past, but it's been a very long time. I know Benabel Wen did a review of a set of cards to help you learn to read it, so I'll need to re-look at those and perhaps pick those up. It's definitely been on my list of things to look into. Here we have the pendulum. This looks like a crystal heart that you would hang, hang from your window. I would prefer like a pendulum, like my big black one, which is over there, that I love. Just something like, ooh, because I love a pendulum. According to historical Greek records, the Python of Delphi doused with a pendulum to determine answers to questions posed to her by kings, queens, nobility, and military generals who traveled great distances to consult with her. Did not know that. Today, many people believe their spirit guides act as a source of energy and revealing secret information. Other people, such as myself and other people, also can use it to tap into the subconscious, to sort of get out of your upper brain and down lower into what you know but you're not aware of. For example, if you lose your keys, right? You know where your keys are. You are the one who lost them, so you know where they are. You just can't access that information. And so for some people, using pendulums helps you access information that you know but that you don't realize that you know, or you can't remember it. Phrenology is obviously, I know they use it to define their character, but I didn't know they would actually use it, which I guess is similar to palmistry. Hippocrates and his followers inaugurated major changes in the understanding of people's behavior and personality by reading their heads. During the Victorian era, many physicians also practiced phrenology, defining people's character and knowledge by reading the bumps, shape, and size of their heads. I guess you're divining people's personality traits with it. Here we have psychometry, which is a sensitivity keyword. This form of divination means measure the soul. First developed by Joseph R. Buchanan in 1842, he theorized that I'm sure again that people were probably holding objects and gaining information well before he defined it. I don't think you develop something like that. Anyways, he theorized that all objects have souls that retain memory. Since then, many doctors and professors have investigated Buchanan's work and concluded that details about a person can be learned by holding one of their possessions. That's interesting. I would say, I'm not sure how many doctors, how extensive those are, but regardless, interesting. And again, I do think that people probably maybe didn't call it psychometry, but I think that there have been sensitives that have been touching objects and gaining information probably long before that. That's just my personal opinion. Of course, here we have runes. They were used by the Germanic people from the 1st to the 2nd century AD. The name rune means secret or whisper. According to Norse mythology, the runic alphabet has a divine origin because, of course, Odin hung himself on the world tree so as to receive the runes in response to his self-sacrifice. Though through experiencing death and rebirth, the initiate hopes to receive mystic wisdom. Love it. And see how cool that looks? I mean, I think that all of the ones that I talked about that don't look like that, could have been a little bit more done of that fashion. Here we have a scrying mirror. So this is another way to scry. Mirrors made from iron ore, pyrite, and obsidian were used by the Maya, Aztec, and Tarascans. I did not know this. This form of divination was still being practiced at the time of the Spanish conquest. Mirrors were viewed as metaphors for sacred caves and conduits for supernatural forces, also used in pre-Columbian Mexico to reveal a person's destiny. Again, I think as long as there's been reflective surfaces, people have been scrying in them. But I didn't know that about the Maya and Aztecs. That's pretty awesome. Shagai, still common in Mongolia and throughout Central Asia where it originated. Shagai refers to the collection of small knuckle bones of sheep, goats, and in some case wolves. That's what I had a set of somewhere, because they also play a game with them, which are thrown on the ground. The pattern they formed is then divined by a bone thrower who is gifted in their interpretation. I wonder if I still have them somewhere. To see if I can find them. By seeing how the bones fall, the diviner can settle arguments within the tribe, listen to the ancestral spirits for guidance on health issues, and discover answers to questions asked. Of course, this is sort of the precursor to many kinds of bone castings. I think we're in all different cultures, and the idea of charm casting is also very similar to this in a more modern sense. So I think bone casting is probably one of the older forms that probably dates way, way, way back. Of course, we have shooting stars. Oh, but do they do the right one? No. Upon a star my wishes soar of magic, love, and even more. For now my dreams will truly grow. I know, for this card tells me so. Okay, I liked it up until that last line. But Star Bright Starlight, first star I see tonight. Wish I may, wish I might. Have this wish I wish tonight is far better. Ancient Babylonians looked to the sky for omens, which they found in shooting stars. In some traditions, shooting stars are thought to be the gods watching us. The shooting star has been seen through the ages as an omen of magical confirmation. Today, when we look to the night skies and see a shooting star, we say it brings us good luck. Seeing a shooting star is a confirmation that you are coming close to your chosen destiny. Make a wish. Then we have smoke, which is again a form of scrying. Originating in ancient Babylon, those Babylonians were up to a lot of stuff, weren't they? Busy divinatory beavers. Smoke has long been observed for signs. In ancient Greece, augurs watched to see if the smoke from sacrificial offerings rose directly to the heavens. If so, that was a good sign. If it hung about or smoldered, that was construed as an omen of uncertainty. Today you can light an incense stick and observe the flow of the smoke. Of course, we have spells. That's pretty awesome looking. Using spells, you can divine secrets from long ago, look into your destiny, and find things that you have been lost. You can also block unwanted energy and keep it from affecting you. By combining intention, herbs, magical tools, and crystal potions, along with magical skills and abilities, you can awaken to the esoteric knowledge of this ancient art. I never really... Hubble bubble, that is interesting. Hubble bubble, stirring well, transforming all by my spell, changing, growing hour by hour. Behold the alchemical power. I was trying to get it into the right number of syllables. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm fond of the incantations. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you use spells to actually divine things? I feel like people who do spells probably use tarot and other things for divining, but I may be wrong. Pretty cool image though. There we have our beloved tarot. We have the 4 elements, or the 4 suits. We have the Rider-Waite-Smith. Could not it have been an older deck, but you know me. You know me. Oops, trying to find a tarot. Linked to various mystical traditions, including Kabbalah and witchcraft, tarot is a magical form of divination to those initiated into its meanings. I don't know that I've ever really linked tarot to witchcraft, other than I think Christians do that without really knowing what they're talking about sometimes. When misinterpreted, this ancient arcana may evoke fear in those who do not comprehend this sacred tool. Holds keys to the alchemy of the mystics. Yeah, I feel like there could have been more said there. Less about what people misinterpret it by and more about what it actually is, which is kind of surprising coming from, you know, an oracle deck. So yeah, I'm glad it's here. I wish it was something more old like this Forza or something cool like that, but, you know, beggars can't be choosy. Here we have tea leaves, of course. The tradition of tea leaves reading came from Asia, the Middle East, and ancient Greece. After tea made its way from China to Europe, the nomadic gypsies started reading European people's fortunes with their tea leaves. Gone are the days of sitting around the table while grandmother reads the tea leaves in china cups, due to loose tea being replaced by tea bags. Video killed the radio star, right? And apparently, tea bags killed the tea leaf reading. Thunder and lightning for power. In many mythologies, rumbling thunder and lightning bolts were weapons of the gods. Being struck by lightning is spirit sign that you are a Heyoka, the sacred jester of the Koda people. Again, this is one that I don't really see as being... they're not talking at least about divining by lightning, what you see in the sky, or the sound and length or duration of the thunder as being like ways of divining things. They're just talking about mythologies of thunder and lightning. So that one's kind of iffy, but maybe somewhere somebody did this. Same thing with this Wheel of Fortune. The Rota Fortuna is a concept originated by the Babylonians, then developed by the ancient Greeks. It tells us that the wheel belongs to the goddess Fortuna, who spins it at random, affecting mortal lives. In the Middle Ages, writers focus on stories about tragic downfalls of the mighty. I understand what the Wheel of Fortune is. It's a concept, but there really isn't a Wheel of Fortune that somebody spins and divines with. And this is supposed to be about divination. So I kind of feel like in some of these that they just needed to have 44 cards because that's a standard oracle deck. So they squeezed a few in there that aren't really divination. We have wishbones. The Etruscans believed that fowls were soothsayers. After a sacred bird was killed, the wishbone was laid in the sun to dry. Then on the full moon, 2 priests pulled the wishbone apart. The one who got the longer piece was deemed blessed and gifted. Today, many people have little opportunity to use the wishbone and its blessings due to the changes the way we cook and consume our fowl, opting for fast foods and ready-to-eat processed foods, for example. Which I think is a little preachy there. We do still at least cook it at Thanksgiving. Again, I don't think you're really I guess you're divining who's blessed and gifted. So I guess in a sense. So I think some of these they were stretching a bit because they needed to get 44 cards. But, you know, like the wishbone, not so much about that. That's not really divine. You don't have a wheel that somebody in ancient Greece was spinning to get divine something. Dictionaries, I still haven't seen anybody talking about dictionaries. We had a pyromancy card, so this is just an illumination card. So these kind of feel like extra cards that aren't really about divination, as more as like filling in the deck. You can kind of go here because they were divining who is the most worthy priest, so to speak. But yeah, so I think there were some stretches. Visually, there were definitely some that were not my favorite of this type of art. I feel like sometimes this one I think is a little bit frustrating in that respect, just because and this seems to happen a lot with oracle decks. Like, these are nice. Like, these aren't, you know, fabulous in terms of compared to, say, a painted tarot deck. But they have some really cool images. And then it just seems like these are really neat looking. And then it feels like sometimes it starts to get really, like, most of these are fairly, like, okay, these are pretty cool looking. I don't know why you need a window there. That's pretty cool looking. That's cool looking. That's cool looking. That's okay. This I'm going to look up. So I feel like sometimes they rushed a little bit on other ones, but most of these, you know, like, okay, they're not works of art, or, you know, like paintings of art or anything like that, but they're all right. There's just a few actually like that. This one's not great, but truthfully, there's less than I thought. This one I really don't like. That one I really don't like. That one I don't like. Okay. Yeah, even this with the rainbow things. But, you know, it's not horrible. So really, it's only these 4 that I feel like, oh, like dice. They talked about all these old dice. Why wasn't there an old dice there? This is, yeah, this is just badly done. That's not as bad. Compared to these other ones, that one's not as bad. But still, there's a lot less than I would have expected, so that's good. These, I still really, really wish that the Book of Changes would have been a beautiful old book. This makes it look like it's something new and hot off the press, and I would have liked to have seen this. This is an ancient divination. They have such cool images on some of them, and same thing here. It's talking about, you know, and I think it should have been bibliomancy. Why would that not be bibliomancy? Because that is a form of divination, and so I feel like this should have been bibliomancy, and this should have been an old beautiful book or a complete work of Shakespeare, something other than a modern book that the author did. So those are my only complaints. Okay, but that's the reviewer in me. We have to kind of be honest about what I see in things. But all in all, I like the energy of the cards. I do feel sometimes like the keywords aren't necessarily directly related to the divination form, but I do think they would help to make this very readable as an oracle deck. So first I'm just going to do a typical 3-card that I like to do with Oracle decks, because mostly I use Oracle decks as one cards at the end of other readings, or I use them, of course, every week a couple times in a live chat. So I use them a lot for that. Just trying to get some good shuffles in here. But I learned some things, some interesting things, so I'm really loving that. Okay, here we have lots for chance. We have arrow, which is one of my favorites for focus. I love the chance and the focus. And then we have the book of changes, right? That idea of change. So I love this, the double message here of that there are some things that we can't control. And so I love the idea of casting lots, that some things are just a sort of randomized, let's cast the lots here. Whereas other things, but the answers that we find from casting lots and from taking that chance and kind of that synchronicity is going to help us to focus, right? To come into focus the changes that may be coming our way. If you just read them just strictly as an oracle, I think that actually works really well. Can do a 5. I don't hardly ever use oracle cards in this way. For me, it's all 3 cards. But I'm going to stop because I feel like this must be extra long for an oracle because I read all those. But that was kind of the point, was to see the history of all. I mean, what do we get out of this? Number one, I do think this is actually going to be a nice oracle deck to use, and I look forward to working with it. But number two, I think we got a nice little history lesson on how old, how long people have looked to the skies, looked to the flame, looked to the smoke, looked to the earth, looked to the trees, looked to random chance, looked to the written word, all different ways in which people have looked to sort of dive within or above if they're connecting with spirit or divinity, but have been to look and see beyond the physical plane and to these deeper messages and knowledge. And that's really, really cool, especially as we're going into Embrace the Magical. I think that's extra neat to see. So thank you so much, Chris. I think this was a perfect deck for us to represent our love of all things divination, and I'm really looking forward to working with this deck. Thank you.